What's going on, everybody? Limeknight here. Video games have been around for years and years now, and when a video game becomes successful enough, developers will usually give it a sequel, but unfortunately not every video game franchise is lucky enough to get its appropriate sequel. So what I'm here to talk about is the 10 games that I think desperately need a sequel. Now keep in mind, these are my personal opinions that I think need a sequel. There are definitely more games out there that could also be on other people's lists, so with that, keep that in mind. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the video. Starting off on the list at number 10 is the Jak and Daxter franchise. Jak and Daxter was one of the big hits on the PS2 era, and that it got 4 different games. It got Jak and Daxter, it got Jak 2, Jak 3, and Jak Racing. This game is desperately overdue for a new game. The very first game, Jak and Daxter and the Precursor Legacy, came out in 2001. Then it came up with 2003's Jak 2, and then 2004 Jak 3. Then finally it rounded it out with Jak X Combat Racing. There was one called Daxter on the PSP, but we don't count that. I'm talking about the main game. So technically it's been since 2005 since we got an actual Jak and Daxter game, and I think it's time for a new one. It seems like PlayStation doesn't want to touch their old IPs recently, and I don't know why. The only one I could say that they have done recently is Ratchet & Clank, and Ratchet & Clank got a brand new game after long periods of time of not having one, so that's why I'm really hoping we get a Jak and Daxter game, because it really needs that PS5 treatment like Ratchet & Clank got. One of the things I loved about this franchise was that it started out as a little goofy platforming game. Then, by Jak 2, it decided to go all Grand Theft Auto on us and just made it where we just got tons of guns and tons of dark cutscenes, edgelord type of characters. It was great. Then it rounded out with Jak 3, which was not one of my favorites. It's actually my least favorite on the game, out of the games, to be completely honest. But I did have fun playing it. And then finally, we had a racing game, which is just Mario Kart with Jak and Daxter. It was a fun game, but it's just a gimmick. Overall, it has been such a long time since we got a Jak and Daxter game. It desperately needs one. I can't stress enough how much PlayStation needs to step up their old IPs and bring some of their old stuff back, because a lot of fans want it, and we are overdue for it. Number 9 on my list is Mario Baseball. I know that sounds like a strange entry, but there has only been 2 Mario Baseball games. We had Mario Superstar Baseball for the Nintendo GameCube in 2005, and Mario Super Sluggers for the Nintendo Wii in 2008. Mario Baseball was a game that I absolutely loved playing as a kid, because I'm not really into sports, but if you throw a bunch of gimmicks into it, it makes it really fun for me. I enjoyed the fact that you could play these baseball games with all your favorite characters from the Mario franchise and have a bunch of special little gimmicks in there where you could just throw fireballs and all this other crazy stuff inside these games. I very much think this franchise definitely needs to be brought back, because it has not been a thing since 2008. We already have Mario Aces, Mario Strikers Battle League, Mario Golf Super Rush, and even the Switch Sports, but no mention of bringing back Mario Baseball. You got all these sports games brought onto the Nintendo Switch. We got a new console coming out here soon next year. It's time for Mario Baseball to return. It may be a silly entry, but hey, this is my list. I want some more Mario Baseball, and that's why it's number 9, because I like Mario Baseball. Number 8 on my list is the game series Spy Hunter. Now, Spy Hunter's been around since 1983 as an arcade game, and it's had multiple different versions of it. The one I played the most is it got a PS2 version in 2001. Then they tried to bring it back in 2012 with a game that didn't get great reviews. So that's why I think that it is time to try to bring this franchise back and get a new version of it. There is a bunch of different ways you could do that. This is a game franchise that has multiple opportunities to be a really good new game. If you give us a new style of Spy Hunter game with all the perks that modern racing games have, mixed in with all the fun gadgets and gimmicks that Spy Hunter originally had, it could turn out to be a great game. We've seen what a great racing game could be with hits like Forza, Gran Turismo, Burnout, Need for Speed. There's so many good examples of it. So we know it can be done. I love to see this franchise get more attention. That's why I'd like a sequel game, because I enjoyed playing the PS2 version so much as a kid. I just love to see a new version of this franchise. Number 7 on my list is the Army of Two franchise. Now, Army of Two have had 3 games so far. We had Army of Two, the original, in 2008. We had Army of Two, the 40th Day in 2010. And then Army of Two, the Devil's Cartel in 2013. So it has definitely been a while since we've had a new game, and I would love to see this franchise get a new entry. If you are not familiar with Army of Two, you basically play as 2 different characters, Tyrese and Elliot, and you have to use coordinated teamwork in order to take down your enemies. It's a third-person shooter. What made this game so great was that it is in fact a 2-player game that does revolve around you having good teamwork. So if you had 2 controllers, you and your buddy could play together as 2 team members to have to take down the bad guys. It was such a great, perfect couch co-op game. Now, what I'd like to see, the biggest thing for this new version that I'm wanting, is that it is obviously, like I said, a 2-person game, and now the online gaming is so prevalent. Can you imagine how easy it is for you and your buddy to play with? Instead of having to rely on couch co-op, you could just sync up, get into a party like you do with other games, and just you and your buddy go into the story. They have other games out there that you can play the story through on multiplayer. It's easily done. So yeah, the main reason I want this game is I love this game. I love this franchise. I liked all 3 games. I own all 3 games. And to be able to play with my buddy who lives in, like, say, another state or another city, it'd be way easier and way more fun. So yeah, that's why this is on that list. I want a new Army of Two. Number 6 on our list is Left 4 Dead. Let's go back to the early 2000s where we get to play some of the best Xbox 360 zombie games out there, Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. The Left 4 Dead franchise, if you're not familiar, was a first-person shooter game where you basically had to survive the zombie horde. One of the cool features about this game is that you could play with your other friends and do it as a co-op game. This game is extremely overdue for a sequel, and it's actually one of the most requested games to get a sequel that everybody wants. One of the things that made this game so prevalent in the Xbox 360 era was its online multiplayer. The gameplay on the multiplayer was awesome. You could either play with you and your friends on co-op and like local, or you could go online and you could play online and join other people's parties and stuff like that. Another cool feature this game had was the mode Infected. Basically what it was is you had 2 different teams, one was infected and one was not infected, and if you were the infected team, you would have to basically hunt down the entire other team to kill them and turn them into zombies, and if you were the not affected team, your entire goal was to survive the infected hunting you and get to the end of the level. Like I said previously, this is one of the most requested games to get a sequel, and I do think it is overdue. It would be very cool to see a modern Left 4 Dead game, and I just think that it needs to get done. Number 5 on our list is Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno was a game released in 2010. If you're not familiar with Dante's Inferno, it's actually a game based off of a 14th century epic poem called Divine Comedy. This game is actually the first part of that epic poem. I think it'd be great if they made a sequel to this game, seeing as it never got one. It could be based on the second part, Purgatorio, and it could be all about that adventures of Dante throughout Purgatory. The hack and slash greatness that is Dante's Inferno doesn't have to end with just Dante's Inferno. Like I said before, he could climb up Mount Purgatory and go through the 7 traces of Purgatory and take on all the sins. There's 3 parts to this poem, so this doesn't have to be a one and done. Number 4 on this list is Custom Robo. Custom Robo is a franchise you may not have heard of before, and that's because from 1999 all the way to the Nintendo GameCube eras in the early 2000s, it was a Japan exclusive. But in 2000s, we got, for the Nintendo GameCube, Custom Robo. And that's the one I played the most. That's the one I played, is the Nintendo GameCube version. And I gotta say, man, that game was so awesome. Yes, we did end up getting more Custom Robo after the GameCube because the last one we got was on the Nintendo DS, but I never played that one, so I'm sticking only to the GameCube version for this video. If you aren't aware of what Custom Robo is, it's basically a game where you have all these little battle bots that you can customize and change them how they look and their weapons and stuff like that, and you use them in a JRPG style storyline. So you get a JRPG story where you gotta basically save the world from JRPG stuff, and you can use your custom battle bots as a way to battle. It's kind of like how in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, how Yu-Gi-Oh is everybody uses cards to solve all their problems. Well, in this franchise, everybody uses their battle bots for this problem. So if the bad guy is trying to break into somewhere and he's like, I'm gonna stop you, instead of being like, let's duel, it's just like, get your robos ready, we're gonna battle. And then you go into a hologram type of arena, your battle bots come out and you fight each other. Like I said, I haven't played any of the other ones besides the GameCube version, but I do really want this to come back because I would love to see a modern day Custom Robo game. If you can get your hands on a Nintendo GameCube version of it, the game still holds up for being so old. It is a fantastic game. It didn't get great reviews, but people are stupid because they don't know what good games are anymore. So if you go and you look up the score, don't be surprised it's kind of low. I think it's great, and my opinion doesn't really matter though. So you can make your own opinions. I think this game needs to come back, and I would love to see a new Custom Robo game. Number 3 on my list is the game Bully. Now, Bully has been another one of those that have been very highly requested, and for good reason, because Bully needs a sequel super badly. If you never played Bully, Bully was basically a watered-down Grand Theft Auto, which is not a bad thing. It's actually pretty cool. I enjoyed Bully a little bit more than some of the modern-day Grand Theft Auto games because it was just more believable. You basically played Jimmy Hopkins, and he had to go to a private school that he didn't want to go to, and you had to traverse throughout the story and take down all the factions of like the nerds, the jocks, stuff like that, and survive school. And you did that by beating the shit out of everybody. You got a bunch of different weapons you could use, like slingshots and stuff like that. You could upgrade your fighting power, stuff like that. It was just overall a really fun game. What I'd like to see in a Bully sequel, Bully 2, whatever, is there's 2 different versions. You could either A, follow Jimmy Hopkins' story and send him off to college, which that's okay. Or there's option 2, which is have a whole new protagonist, whole different school, have nothing to do with the first one, or even have Jimmy Hopkins as be like the legend of this bully kid, and you can have this new character and see how he continues in his life and his school adventures and stuff like that. I would be happy with either or option. Honestly, I just want a sequel to Bully because it is super overdone. I don't think Rockstar is going to touch it, but they desperately need to. Number 2 on my list is the Sly Cooper franchise. If you're not familiar with the Sly Cooper franchise, basically you play as Sly Cooper and his friends. He plays a raccoon who is an honorable thief, and usually villains come in, they steal your artifacts or your treasures or something like that, your secrets, and you need to go back and steal your secrets and stuff back from those other criminals. Every single game has its own little gimmick, and it has its own little thing where the story gets even wackier and crazier, and at some point you even going through time and stuff like that. But the reason why I'm saying all this is because it has been since 2013 since we've gotten a Sly Cooper game, and it is overdue for a new Sly Cooper game. I really want Sly Cooper to get the Ratchet & Clank treatment. Ratchet & Clank was another franchise that was a PlayStation exclusive type of thing, where it hadn't been years before we got a new game, and then the PS5 released an exclusive on them as a brand new Ratchet & Clank game. So I would love for this franchise to get more games. I don't know why they haven't. It's probably some licensing nonsense, but dude, if Ratchet & Clank can do it, why can't Sly Cooper do it? Sly Cooper is always one of the coolest mascots out there. I love the look of Sly Cooper. I love the attitude of Sly Cooper. I love the little cane that he uses as his weapon to traverse throughout the whole entire levels and stuff like that. Altogether, Sly Cooper was one of the coolest platformers out there, and I would highly want to see this game get a new sequel. Why can't this happen? Please, Sony, make a new Sly Cooper. The number one spot on my list is the game Kirby Air Ride. Talk about underrated video games, this is the king of underrated video games. This was a Kirby kart style video game, but it was more like a battle royale game. You could run around the city and get different carts. Each cart had its own special ability, and you would grab power-ups to power up your carts as you played. When the timer runs out, you would have to race using the cart that you ended up with and all of the stat upgrades that you picked up. Plus, it had its own mini games, which are absolutely fantastic. It was a huge appeal to this game as well. Why I want this game to get a sequel so much is because it is so underrated. I would love to see this game come with a new version of it, kind of like what we've done with all the Mario Kart games, and have some form of multiplayer thing you can do online now, with like you can with all the Mario Kart games. It makes sense. If you're a Kirby fan and you like Mario Kart, combine the two together, you get a fantastic game. So this game is why it's my number one pick. I'm not a huge racing fan, but I love Kirby Air Ride because you could do so much with it. It's just a great game. Please bring it back. Well, there you have it, folks. There is my 10 games that desperately need a sequel. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It always helps out the channel grow. And if there's any games that you think I missed, comment them below because I love seeing other people's feedback. And we'll see you guys on the next video.